Chapter 5:18. The three examiners inside glanced at the newcomer and saw that it was a young red-clothed youth. He looked around curiously as soon as he entered the apothecary guild. It was obvious that this was his first time in the apothecary guild. Seeing this, one of the examiners coughed lightly and said, "Come and register." "What's your name? How old are you?" The examiners only needed to register their name and age. The name was a code, but the age was not. They needed to know the age of each examiner, as well as the rank of the apothecary they were being tested for, so that the apothecaries could easily calculate. At this moment, Fengjiu's gaze also fell on the three examiners. Seeing that they were two middle-aged men and an old man, he walked forward and bowed, a pure and harmless smile on his handsome face. "Greetings, examiners. My name is Fengjiu, and I'm 16 years old this year." The three examiners saw that the youth in front of them had a handsome appearance, a clear and energetic voice, and a face that was full of ignorance. However, he was well-mannered and had a sense of propriety. They all nodded inwardly, thinking that this child should be a descendant of a noble family. After the middle-aged man wrote down the name and age, he pointed to a stone door behind him and said, "That's the elixir room. There are all kinds of elixirs. You need to identify the elixirs and choose the herbs yourself. Once you've chosen the herbs you need, go to the refining table over there to refine your medicine." Fengjiu looked in the direction he pointed and nodded, "Okay." Only then did he walk towards the stone door. When he pushed open the stone door, he saw that it was another world inside. Although it was called the elixir room, he still had to walk nearly 10 meters to reach the elixir room. Rather than calling it a room, it was more appropriate to call it a 3-story building. There was a small square table in front of the building, and an old man was sitting there, dozing off with his hand supporting his chin. Perhaps it was because he heard footsteps that he opened his eyes. "Show me the proof of payment." The old man glanced at Fengjiu and tapped his finger on the table. Hearing this, Fengjiu took out the payment receipt from earlier and handed it over. He thought to himself that there were a lot of troublesome things to deal with, and it took a lot of effort to deal with them. The old man looked at the payment date. When he saw the amount, his eyes widened. He rubbed his eyes, thinking that he had seen wrongly. However, when he looked again, it was still the same number. He could not help but raise his head in astonishment and look at the red-clothed young man in front of him. "Go in." He handed the voucher back to Fengjiu, and stared at her with a strange gaze until she went inside. Then, he whispered, "The fee is actually the highest level. What rank of badge did this youngster take the exam?" After entering the building, Fengjiu felt that there was an expert's divine sense shrouding the 3-story building. It was as if there was a pair of eyes watching everything inside. She did not care. She took out a basket and picked some elixirs that she needed. In less than half an incense stick's time, she came out with 2 baskets of elixirs. Seeing the youngster leave with 2 baskets of elixirs, the old man sitting at the table stared blankly. So many elixirs, and they were not ordinary elixirs. Even if he paid the fee again, he would not be able to make up for it. The guild's fees were divided into 3 levels. Generally, those who came to take the exam for the badge would choose the best ones. Even the medicine sect would not have more than 50 elixirs. However, that youngster just went in and came out with 2 baskets in less than half an incense stick's time. Chapter 5:19. The 3 people in the examination room sat and chatted. Normally, there would only be about 10 to 20 people taking the examination every day. Although some people would need 2 to 3 hours to complete the examination, there would also be some people who would run into problems in the middle of the concoction process and were unable to continue. Therefore, there were people who failed the examination in less than half an incense stick's time. Therefore, the examination was a very leisurely affair for them. Because they were chatting, there were smiles on their faces. When they heard the sound coming from the stone door, they instinctively glanced over. However, when they saw the red-clothed youth carrying 2 baskets full of spiritual herbs in his hands, the smiles on their faces froze. They all widened their eyes and stood up with a whoosh. Just seeing the expensive spiritual herbs in the baskets made them dumbfounded. Those were spiritual herbs from the 3rd floor. Why did he bring them here? There were so many spiritual herbs, and they were all aged. Any one of them was not something that the fee he paid could compare to. Therefore, someone couldn't help but ask, "Fengjiu, what are you taking so many spiritual herbs for?" Hearing this, Fengjiu looked at the examiner who asked the question in astonishment. He naturally replied, "To refine medicine." If he wasn't going to refine medicine, what was he taking so many for? Wasn't this a pointless question? However, this pharmacist guild was really not bad. Compared to the spiritual herbs in the baskets, the fee he paid was not even worth mentioning. Hearing the youth's matter-of-fact words and seeing the youth's expression that clearly said he was asking a pointless question, a few veins appeared on his forehead. The corner of his mouth twitched and he said again, "So many spiritual herbs, can you refine them all? You have to know that although you paid the fee, you can't waste the spiritual herbs. You can only take the spiritual herbs that you need for the medicine you want to refine. If you waste the spiritual herbs that you clearly don't need, you will have to buy them at 10 times the price." She frowned, "But I need them all." As she spoke, she had already carried the 2 baskets of spiritual herbs to the refining table. Seeing this, the other 2 examiners finally couldn't bear it and shouted, "You need them? How are you going to use them? Do you know the names and medicinal properties of those spiritual herbs? 2 baskets of spirit herbs, and all of them are aged. This is no joke." Perhaps thinking of something, Fengjiu, who was originally frowning, looked up at them with a strange expression and asked, "3 examiners, do you know what badge I'm here for? Isn't it just a pharmacist's badge?" One of them said. They hadn't asked him anything since he came in, but looking at this young man's age, he should be taking the examination for the pharmacist badge. The 2 examiners at the side glanced at the youth, then glanced at the 2 baskets full of aged spirit herbs. They shook their heads and picked up the teacups on the table, intending to drink some water to calm down. This was the first time this young man had come to take the test. He didn't even understand the rules here, so don't expect him to pass the test. One had to know that even for a pharmacist, it wasn't that easy to get a badge. Hearing this, Fengjiu grinned, revealing a dazzling smile, and said in a light tone, "No. I'm here to take the medicine saint's badge." Pooh. Cough cough. Chapter 520. Fengjiu blinked innocently and said seriously, "I'm really here to take the medicine sage examination. The fee I'm paying is also the fee for the medicine sage examination." Could it be that they thought she was here to play because she was young? The examiner who had helped Fengjiu register looked at Fengjiu disapprovingly. However, when he saw the youth's innocent and serious expression, he calmed down and asked in a low voice, "Do you have the medicine master's badge?" Fengjiu shook her head, "No." "Then what about the medicine master's badge?" "No." She shook her head again. Displeasure appeared on the examiner's face, but he still asked, "Then what about the medicine master's badge?" "I don't have it either. I haven't taken the examination. This is my first time at the Pharmacists' Association." Although she knew how to refine medicine, she really didn't have those badges. If she did, why would she have come all the way here? When they heard Fengjiu's words, the other 2 examiners couldn't help but say angrily, "You're not even a medicine master. Why are you taking the medicine sage examination? You're still saying you're not crazy? You're clearly crazy about becoming a medicine sage. Wasting our time so early in the morning, you get out right now." Fengjiu wasn't angry at all, perhaps because she understood their feelings. She felt that it was normal for them to feel this way. After all, wanting to take the medicine sage examination without a medicine master's badge was indeed a little whimsical. Thus, she smiled good-naturedly and her eyes sparkled. Examiners, don't be too hot-tempered so early in the morning, it's bad for your health. You should at least listen to what I have to say." Seeing their stares, she didn't wait for them to speak and continued, "Although it's true that I don't have a medicine master's badge that represents my identity, I am indeed a medicine master. As for why I directly took the medicine sage's badge, that's because I feel that I have the ability to obtain the badge and become a medicine sage. Otherwise, these rounds of examinations would waste my time." Hearing this, the 3 examiners who were already burning with anger became even angrier. They felt that this youth was too ridiculous. He actually dared to boast in a place like the Apothecary Guild, and even said that the tests were a waste of his time. Originally, they had thought that this young man's appearance was outstanding, and he was courteous, but now, looking at him again, they had never seen anyone worse than him. "Good. Let's see how you refine medicine at the level of an alchemy saint. But let me tell you something first. If you waste the 2 baskets of elixirs you brought, you'll have to buy them at 10 times the price." Fengjiu rubbed her nose innocently. She was just telling the truth, but she didn't expect the 3 of them to be even angrier than before. Sigh. She was innocent too, okay? Although she would be staying here for a while, she still had time. However, she didn't want to waste her time in this guild. Thus, she checked the items on the medicine refining platform and saw that the equipment was enough to refine normal medicine. However, to refine medicine that could represent the level of a medicine saint, it was too inferior. Thus, she looked at the 3 of them. "The equipment is too low. Please change it to the equipment of the medicine saint." Hearing this, the 3 of them could only stare helplessly and were speechless. But at this moment, an aged voice sounded. "Change it to the equipment of the medicine saint, and have Elder, you come over to supervise the examination." Chapter 521. Fengjiu's eyes flickered. He did not raise his head as he fiddled with the spirit herbs in the basket. The corners of his lips curled into a smile. Because of the Grand Elder's words, the 3 examiners did not dare to say anything else. They quickly changed into the medicine saint's equipment, and one of them personally went to invite Elder Yu. Elder Yu was a medicine saint in the Apothecary Association. His status was extraordinary. It was difficult to find 10 medicine saints in 100 third-rate countries. Hence, one could imagine how rare medicine saints were. This was also why they were so angry when they heard Fengjiu say that he wanted to take the medicine saint examination. They did not think that this young man had the ability to take the medicine saint examination. They even thought that his words were an insult to the medicine saint's dignity. A 16-year-old medicine saint? That was simply impossible. Among the people waiting outside for the examination, there were many apothecaries, Grandmaster apothecaries, and even Grandmaster apothecaries who came to take the medicine saint examination. There was no one above that. After all, medicine saints were extremely rare. At this moment, they saw the door to the stone room open and the examiners inside hurriedly came out. Because of the isolation of the formation, they could not hear what was happening inside. They could only discuss in low voices. Not long after, when they saw the examiner who had come out earlier respectfully following behind an old man, some people who recognized the old man's identity were so excited that their faces flushed red. They all wanted to go forward and greet him, but they were blocked by the guards beside the old man. When the old man and the examiners entered the stone room, those who recognized the old man were so excited that they were incoherent. "That's Medicine Saint Yu. He's the only medicine saint in the entire Great Yen dynasty. I've seen him from afar once. I heard that Medicine Saint Yu usually lives in seclusion. I didn't expect to see him here today." "That's right. I've also seen him from afar once. But why is he here? This is the examination room. Could it be that someone can make him personally take the examination?" Although another person was excited, he noticed something unusual. The one who went in was a red-robed young man. He looks to be around 15 or 16 years old. He's probably here to take the Medicine Saint examination. It's impossible for him to disturb Medicine Saint you. Perhaps there's something else. While the crowd outside was discussing, Fengjiu was looking at the new equipment in satisfaction. This was the Medicine Saint's medicine refining equipment. She took out the spirit herbs from the basket and placed them neatly. Then, she heard an old but vigorous voice. "Young friend, your name is Fengjiu?" Fengjiu's eyes and saw a gray-robed elder. He had a head of silver hair and his face was rosy. He was full of spirit and his wise eyes as he sized her up. She smiled and replied, "Yes. I heard that you're taking the Medicine Saint's badge?" The old man smiled. He did not look down on him, nor was he surprised. He only asked calmly, as if he was an old friend who had known him for a long time. His expression was natural, and his tone was gentle. She nodded, her bright eyes falling on the old man. "Since that's the case, I'll invigilate for you." The elder smiled warmly and retreated to the invigilator's seat. He gestured to Fengjiu. "The Medicine Saint has 4 hours to refine medicine. Young friend, please refine medicine in 4 hours. As long as the medicine meets the standard of a Medicine Saint, I'll personally put the Medicine Saint's badge on you." Chapter 522. The 3 examiners glanced at Elder Yu and were puzzled. Even though Elder Yu was kind and amiable, but that red-clothed youth was only a 16-year-old youth. To be able to receive such courteous treatment from him, they really could not understand. Moreover, from Elder Yu's words and his attitude, he seemed to think that the youth could really refine medicine at the level of a Medicine Saint. Moreover, he was only a 16-year-old youth, yet he actually alarmed the Grand Elder. At this moment, needless to say, they knew that the Grand Elder was also secretly observing the assessment here. Hence, they gathered their thoughts and looked towards the red-robed youth. With this look, astonishment flashed across their eyes. The red-robed youth's movements of handling the spirit herbs were extremely skillful, neither fast nor slow, extremely elegant. Thinking of this, a strange expression surfaced on their faces. Elegant? Why would they think so? Although they felt that these 2 words should not appear here, but the youth's movements, expressions, and mannerisms all revealed a sense of elegance. The entire scene was a pleasing painting. The red-robed youth's appearance was handsome, his expression focused, yet his movements revealed elegance. Every raise of his hand, every movement, and every stroke of his red sleeves was like a painting, inexplicably calming one's heart. What Elder Yu noticed was different from what the 3 examiners noticed. What Elder Yu noticed was the way Fengjiu handled the elixirs, as well as the order in which he concocted the elixirs. What he noticed was the concentration in his expression, as well as the confidence he had in his heart. His gaze swept across the spirit herbs on the table, and his gaze moved slightly. What kind of medicine was he going to refine? From Fengjiu's methods, he could tell that he was indeed a pharmacist, but he did not know what level of medicine he could refine. To be able to catch the Grand Elder's attention, this youth was not simple. As time passed, the spirit herbs were processed, and Fengjiu began to extract the essence of the spirit herbs. If it was refining pills, she really did not have the confidence to succeed in one try. But medicine, that was something she had played with since she was young, so it was not difficult for her at all. However, her method of refining medicine was different from what they had estimated. The pharmacists here extracted the medicinal liquid from the medicine, but she extracted the essence of the spiritual herbs. Just this point alone made the medicine she refined different. When Elder Yu saw that Fengjiu's method of extracting the medicinal liquid was different from what he had expected, doubt flashed across his eyes. Then, he saw that Fengjiu had actually casually poured all the medicinal liquids he had extracted into it. After going through layers upon layers of steps, in the end, only half a cup of light green medicinal liquid was extracted. Feng Jiu did not care that they were watching, nor was she afraid that they would learn her technique. She only focused on the work at hand. About 4 hours later, she placed the extracted essences on the table and prepared for the final fusion step. Elder Yu was frowning as he looked at the light green medicinal liquid in the transparent bottles. It was strange that Feng Jiu had extracted a different green medicinal liquid from theirs. Just as he was thinking, he saw the youth randomly mixing the remaining 20 cups of medicinal liquid together. That casual action caused his gaze to shrink. He felt that if those medicinal liquids were mixed together, there would definitely be a reaction of repulsion. This medicine was probably ruined. Chapter 523. Smelling the dense medicinal fragrance that made one's mind tremble, Elder Yu suddenly jolted. His eyes widened in shock, and he instantly stood up. He looked in disbelief at the young man who was slowly stirring the medicinal liquid. His eyes stared in disbelief at the medicinal liquid that did not explode due to the incompatibility of the medicinal properties. How was this possible? How did he do it? Mixing the medicinal liquid in like that, why didn't the medicinal properties repel each other? Was there anything that he had missed? He actually couldn't see where the problem was. Similar to Elder Yu, the 3 examiners at the side were also dumbfounded. However, they were not dumbfounded because Feng Jiu's medicinal liquid did not repel each other, because that kind of refining method and steps were already not something they could understand. What they were dumbfounded about was the medicinal fragrance that they smelled. They didn't think that this young man could really refine medicine. Although the dense medicinal fragrance wafted out, Feng Jiu did not stop. Instead, he paid attention to the medicinal liquid, and continued to extract the final essence using the distillation method. Time gradually passed, and the dense medicinal fragrance that permeated the air gradually faded. It clearly did not have the previous dense medicinal fragrance, but that refreshing scent seemed to have become purer. Elder Yu watched as Feng Jiu took out the final medicinal liquid from the distiller, and watched as he took out 2 transparent bottles from his sleeves, and stored the faint green medicinal liquid. Seeing this, he hurriedly walked over, and arrived in front of the refining platform. "All right, please examine it." She took out a bottle for Elder Yu to examine. From the beginning to the end, Elder Yu clearly understood that this young man was a medicine saint. That kind of technique was impeccable, and he seemed to have grasped the knowledge of refining medicine that even he did not understand. Looking at the medicinal liquid in front of him, he could even be sure that this was a medicinal liquid that could be compared to the spiritual liquid. Moreover, he had only used less than 6 hours to complete the refinement. This speed was also out of his expectations. Suppressing the shock and excitement in his heart, he took out a small tube of liquid medicine and compared it. He evaluated it from its color and smell. Finally, he looked at Feng Jiu and asked in an excited voice, "Young friend, may I ask what kind of miraculous effect this medicine has?" "This is a bottle of medicinal liquid that can help with cultivation breakthroughs. I've added 2 types of medicine, so you have to be at least a Golden Core Realm cultivator or a Martial Emperor Realm Xian martial artist to take it. It depends on each person's situation. I can't say for sure," she said with a shrug. In any case, she knew that the amount of liquid medicine she took out was enough. Old Yu's eyes lit up as he held the liquid, but he didn't say a word for a long time. The 3 people at the side could not help but ask, "Elder Yu, is this extreme or not? Is the color and smell right?" Hearing this, Elder Yu finally regained his senses. He looked at Feng Jiu as if he was looking at a glowing treasure, his eyes filled with excitement and agitation. "Good, good, good, good. A young medicine saint like this young friend, not to mention these hundreds of third-class countries. I'm afraid that even those second-class countries have never produced one. Young friend is really a natural genius, a natural genius." Hearing this, the 3 examiners were instantly dumbfounded, and their jaws almost dropped to the ground. This young man actually reached the level of a medicine saint. Chapter 524. Hearing him call her little friend to little brother Fengjiu expressed that it was very stressful to address an old man who was hundreds of years old as little brother. But luckily, this elder you didn't give her a bad feeling, so she felt relieved after thinking about it. He called her little brother because he thought highly of her. After all, when he called her little brother, it meant that he treated her as an equal. But she was a girl, all right? The word little brother really didn't suit her. So, she smiled and said, "Elder, you can just call me Xiaojiu." "Ha ha, good, then I'll call you Xiaojiu." He laughed heartily. The more he looked at her, the more satisfied he was, and said, "Xiaojiu, let's go to the main hall to talk, please." Fengjiu nodded and walked out with him. The 3 examiners were stunned, and only regained their senses after a while. The 3 of them looked at each other, and hurriedly followed out, leaving the examination work to the other 3 pharmacists of the guild. When the crowd who had been waiting outside for half a day saw Elder Yu and the red-clothed youth walking out while talking and laughing, they all widened their eyes in disbelief. But they couldn't get close, and could only watch as the few of them walked further and further away. "Who's that youth?" "That youth is the first person to go in for the examination. Looks like he passed." Even if he passed, Elder Yu and the other 3 examiners don't have that kind of attitude, right? Could it be that the youth's family background is very strong? Once these words were said, it immediately attracted the disdainful gazes of the crowd. No matter how strong the family background is, the medicine saint wouldn't care about it. You have to know, even those from the royal family have to curry favor with him. Why would he need to curry favor with others? The others nodded. That's right, whether it was a pharmacist or a pill refiner, they were all highly respected. No matter how strong a person's cultivation was, they couldn't leave a pharmacist or a pill refiner in their life. Furthermore, no matter how strong a person's cultivation was, they usually wouldn't have bad relations with pharmacists or pill refiners. The guild hall was the place where guests were received. Even the pharmacists who came for the examination were not allowed to enter. Today, Fengjiu was led here by his old friend. The apothecaries secretly sized up Fengjiu while they were serving tea and pastries. They were curious as to why Elder Yu thought so highly of this red-clothed youth. However, they didn't dare to stay. After the tea and pastries were served, they retreated. "No wonder even the Supreme Elder noticed you. Such talent is indeed rare in the world. You must be from a medical family, right?" Elder Yu stroked his beard and smiled as he looked at Fengjiu. He was thinking about how to rope this young man in. If he could become a guest elder of their alchemist association, it would be extremely beneficial to their alchemist association. Fengjiu smiled, but did not intend to elaborate. He only asked, "Elder Yu, is my assessment considered complete?" "The assessment is complete. You only need to drip your blood into the badge to verify it." Elder Yu chuckled as he spoke. His voice paused and he said, "Xiaojiu, I have something to discuss with you. Please speak, Elder Yu." She lifted the teacup and took a sip of tea. "Do you want to sell the medicinal liquid you refined? I can represent the guild to purchase it from you. I can definitely give you a satisfactory price." Chapter 525. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled, put down the teacup in his hand, and looked at him. "I'm really sorry, my medicine is usually only auctioned. Moreover, I don't have any plans to sell it. As for the guest elder," her voice paused and she smiled. "I'm just passing by, and I won't stay here for too long. I'll go back once I'm done with my business, so forget it." She came to the pharmacist guild just to get a badge and get a certificate. She didn't plan to be a guest elder or something like that. It was too troublesome, and she hated trouble the most. But this guest elder position is only in name. He still wanted to persuade her, but who knew that Fengjiu waved his hand. Elder you don't have to say more. I'm only here to get a badge today. I really don't want to be a guest elder. Hearing this, even Elder Yu's mouth couldn't help but twitch. He was speechless and didn't know how to persuade her anymore. If it were an ordinary person, they would be extremely excited when they heard that they were going to be a guest elder of the Pharmacist Guild. Only this eccentric young man was disdainful. He had been in the Pharmacist Guild for so many years, but this was the first time he saw such a freak. Elder Yu, the badge is here. The three examiners walked out. At this moment, their gazes fell on the young man in red, and they felt like they were dreaming. This young man really got the Medicine Saint's badge. Moreover, Medicine Saint, even they had to respectfully call her Medicine Saint Feng in front of him. Elder Yu looked at the young man, then took the badge and told Fengjiu how to authenticate the badge. After a series of procedures, he looked at him and sighed, then asked, Xiaojiu, you really don't want to reconsider? There are many benefits to being a guest elder of our Pharmacist Guild. When he said this, his old face couldn't help but turn red. He never thought that there would be a day where he would have to use such a method to coax a youth into becoming their guild's guest elder. However, it would be fine if this method worked, but the youth just had to be completely uninterested in the position of guest elder. It was really a headache. However, Fengjiu kept the badge that had been authenticated, then smiled. Elder Yu, I'm really just passing by. I won't stay here for long. I appreciate Elder Yu's good intentions, but my friends are still waiting for me outside. I'll take my leave first. There was a smile in her eyes. She was very happy to get the Medicine Saint's badge. However, when she cupped her hands and was about to leave, her footsteps paused. She turned around to look at Elder Yu and said, Elder Yu, please keep the matter of me being the Medicine Saint a secret. Especially my name, I do not wish for it to spread. Hearing this, several people in the hall glared at him. Don't spread? Why not spread? This was a good opportunity to make a name for himself. As long as they spread the news, not only would the Great Yen Kingdom know about him, but the other countries would also know that a 16-year-old genius medicine saint had appeared in their Pharmacist Guild today. Looking at the young man's serious expression, looking at his sparkling eyes fixated on him, Elder Yu sighed, stood up and said, Don't worry, this old man will instruct them to keep this a secret. Your name will definitely not be leaked out. Chapter 526. The three examiners widened their eyes and stared at the youth's departing figure. They only turned around to look at Elder Yu after he had disappeared. One of them asked foolishly, Is this really a secret? Elder Yu glared at them when he heard that. What do you mean by really a secret? Did I just say that to fool him? Secret. The three of you, keep this to yourselves. Don't tell anyone else. Yes. The three of them quickly responded and wiped off their cold sweat. Needless to say, they knew how terrifying it was to offend a medical sage. If they offended a medical sage, they didn't even need to do it themselves. They just needed to take a bottle of medicine and ask a strong person to help them deal with it. They had seen too many of such things and didn't dare to get into trouble. On the other side, Fengjiu, who had left the guild, was in a good mood. She took a deep breath and exhaled gently. Her gaze turned and fell on the tea-house not far away. She walked towards it. Before she entered the tea-house, Leng Shuang and Ling Hua came out to greet her. Master, you're back. Are you tired? Hurry up and rest in the tea-house. Ling Shuang just looked at her quietly, his eyes filled with joy. Ling Hua, on the other hand, had a happy smile on his face. He asked her if she was tired after going in for so long and led her to the entire second floor that had been reserved by the Yama Lord. Walking up to the second floor, she glanced at the empty and quiet second floor. Her gaze turned and fell on Ling Mohan, who was sitting by the street drinking tea. She smiled and said, You're really rich. You can reserve the entire second floor just to drink tea. Ling Mohan looked at her with his deep black eyes. He scanned her from head to toe, and when he saw that she was as clean as she had been when she went in without any accident, he looked away. His deep voice slowly came out of his mouth. Why didn't you wear the badge when you got it? Haha, do I look like someone who likes to show off? This young master is indifferent to fame and fortune. If it weren't for the fact that I need this medicine saint's badge, I wouldn't even bother to take the test. As she spoke, she tossed a badge in her hand. At the same time, she looked at Ling Mohan with a smile on her face. Let me tell you, when I passed the assessment, that old man you kept trying to rope me in, saying that he wanted to buy my medicine at a high price, and even said that he wanted to invite me to be his guild's guest elder. Hearing this, Hui Lang and Ing Yi, who were waiting at the side, couldn't help but widen their eyes and look at her in astonishment. Even Ling Mohan, who was sipping his tea, had a slight change in his gaze. Once again, his gaze fell on the little woman who was behaving like a little fox with her tail up. He asked in a low voice with a slight smile, "Then what did you say?" He played with the teacup in one hand and looked at her with a smile in his deep black eyes. He felt that with her strange personality, he couldn't expect much from her. When Hui Lang and Ing Yi heard their master ask the question they wanted to know, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva and looked at Fengjiu. A guest elder of the Pharmacist Guild. That wasn't a position that just anyone could take up. Did the ghost doctor agree or not? She should have agreed, right? Only a fool would reject such a good thing. Only Ling Shuang and Ling Hua looked calm. No matter what decision their master made, they felt that it was right. Seeing that everyone's gaze fell on her, looking at their curious expressions, she felt more and more that her rejection of the position of guest elder was a very impressive thing. Thus, she coughed lightly, her small face full of pride. Of course I didn't agree. I rejected it directly. Chapter 527. Ling Mohan's deep black eyes flashed with an "I knew it" expression. His face was obviously cold and stiff, but his thin lips covered by his beard couldn't help but reveal a smile. That smile gradually widened, and couldn't stop it from rising. However, he had too much beard and no one saw it. Hui Lang and Ing Yi were dumbfounded, thinking that they had heard wrongly. What did she say? She said that she directly rejected it? The two of them stared blankly, unable to speak for a moment. They only felt that it was inconceivable, too inconceivable. How could there be such an idiot in this world who didn't want benefits? Moreover, this idiot was actually the ghost doctor who had always been as cunning as a fox? After Fengjiu spoke, she saw that there was something wrong with everyone's expressions. She couldn't help but ask blankly, "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" At this time, shouldn't they be telling her that she was indeed the ghost doctor, and that only she had such courage? At this time, shouldn't they be telling her, "Ghost doctor, I admire you so much. Only you dared to reject the position of a guest elder in the Pharmacists' Association?" Looking at their expressions, it seemed that something was wrong. "Ghost doctor, did you reject the medicine and not let him buy it? Or did you reject that guest elder?" Hui Lang asked cautiously. Fengjiu, who had been made nervous by them, blinked, and with a face full of confusion, she said, "I rejected both." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw that Hui Lang was petrified, staring at her stiffly. She couldn't help but look at Ling Mohan, who was drinking tea. "Uncle, did I do something wrong?" Ling Mohan took a sip of tea, glanced at her confused face and said, "There are only 4 guest elders in the Pharmacists' Association, and their representative power is extraordinary. Moreover, the guest elder is only a nominal position, but can enjoy the various benefits and protection of the Pharmacists' Association." His voice paused, and looking at the dumbfounded woman, a smile appeared on his lips, and he continued, "Moreover, there is a very generous offering and hundreds of precious elixirs every year. Apart from that, you can freely participate in various large-scale activities held by the Pharmacists Association, and you will be treated with respect when you enter the various branches of the Pharmacists Association. As long as there is a branch of the Pharmacists Association, the guest elder will have all kinds of benefits. He played with the teacup in his hand and said, "The Pharmacists Association that you went for the assessment is the main Pharmacists Association, and the guest elder position, the significance is even more extraordinary." Speaking of this, his eyes were full of mockery. "I just didn't expect that you would be so indifferent to fame and fortune and directly rejected it. This old man you. Elder's face, he's. Who knew that there were such benefits This can't blame. She had no idea that there would be such a great benefit. If she had known, she would have agreed long ago. Thinking of this, she came to the table, looked at Ling Mohan eagerly, and asked, "Uncle, what do you think if I go back now and ask for the guest elder position back?" However, without waiting for him to speak, she slammed her hands on the table, and shouted with a conflicted face, "But this won't do. Where's my modesty? Where's my pride? How can I go and ask for it back? Ah! It's all that old man Yu's fault." Chapter 528. Hearing this, Feng Jiu's expression changed. He looked left and right, then pretended not to hear anything and looked at Ling Shuang and Ling Hua. We've been out for some time. Let's go back to the inn to rest and order a few dishes to celebrate getting the medicine sage badge." Ling Hua smiled and said, "Master, I heard that there's a restaurant in the city that specializes in braised pork trotters. It's delicious. I'll go buy a few and bring them back to the inn." Walking to Ling Hua's side, she patted his shoulder and smiled. "You don't have to go. Let Hui Lang go. Hui Lang runs faster." As she said this, she turned around and glanced at Hui Lang. Seeing this, Hui Lang smiled awkwardly. "Ninth young master, don't worry. Leave this to me. I'm the best at running errands. Only the ghost doctor would make a strong Jindan cultivator like him run errands to buy pork trotters. I knew it's best to leave this to you. I'll give you something another day." Her eyes curved as she said this. As soon as she finished speaking, she quickly went downstairs and headed towards the inn. "Humph! This cowardly woman." Seeing her leave as if she was escaping, Ling Mohan couldn't help but snort coldly. He knew that this woman wouldn't listen. He had already said it, but she didn't dare to accept it. Hui Lang and Ingyi lowered their heads and stood respectfully, pretending not to have heard anything. Ling Mohan got up and walked past the two. His footsteps paused, and he glanced at Hui Lang. "You have to turn in the things she gave you." He dared to accept things from his woman? He must be tired of living. Hui Lang hadn't recovered from the joy of the ghost doctor giving him something. When he heard this, he hurriedly replied, "Yes, your subordinate will definitely turn it in." "Humph!" Ling Mohan snorted coldly, and walked down with his hands behind his back. At this moment, Hui Lang exhaled lightly, wiped his cold sweat, and looked at Ingyi with a sad face. "Why do you think the ghost doctor likes to ask me to do things? Why haven't I seen her ask you to run errands?" This was too good to him. His master was almost dissatisfied. Ingyi glanced at him and said, "Didn't you just say it? You're the best at running errands. If she doesn't ask you, who else would she ask?" As he spoke, he quickly followed his master in front. The corner of Grey Wolf's mouth twitched. He was the one who said it, so he could only obediently go and buy the pig trotters. On the other side, the manager of the inn was wiping off his cold sweat. His legs trembled as he looked at the president of the black market, who had been sitting on the first floor for a few hours. Could it be that the people living on the second floor were blind enough to provoke people from the black market? Otherwise, why would the president of the black market sit here for hours and not leave? Just as he was thinking about this, he heard the voice of the black market's president. Manager. President, what are your orders? He's sats, he's and he too's to speak him. To him, to think, he and ask. He you to him, he to go. Yes, he didn't say. The manager wiped the sweat on his forehead and said, but they won't run away. Their horses are still behind. When the waiter went into the room to clean, he saw their little pet locked in the room. He should have gone out to do something. Chapter 529. Chairman Ku looked back and saw that it was indeed the ghost doctor. He quickly got up to greet him. Just as he was about to call him the ghost doctor, he remembered what he had told him and changed the way he addressed him. With a smile on his face, he said, "Ninth young master, you're finally back." Chairman Ku? Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and looked at the person who came up to greet him with a smile. "I know that ninth young master lives here, so I specially came to visit." He smiled and narrowed his eyes. His amiable smile made him look very easy to get along with. However, everyone knew that anyone who could become the chairman of the black market would not be easy to get along with. It was just that he had different attitudes towards different people. "I went out early in the morning." "I think you must have waited for a long time?" She smiled. Since he was already here, she naturally had to be polite. So she gestured for him to enter. "Please come in, Chairman Ku. I just came back from outside and haven't had lunch yet. Let's go in together." Hearing this, Chairman Ku, who had waited for a few hours, immediately calmed down. The smile on his face deepened and he hurriedly said, "Ninth young master's hospitality really makes me very happy." As he spoke, a man in a black robe with a big beard came up and stopped beside ninth young master. Seeing this, he asked, "May I know who this is?" "He's my friend. His surname is Ling." Fengjiu smiled and glanced at Ling Mohan beside him. "This is Chairman Ku of the black market." Ling Mohan only glanced at President Ku and then walked inside without even saying hello to anyone. Even so, Chairman Ku didn't dare to show any displeasure on his face, because when that man glanced at him, that deep and sharp gaze swept past him, he felt as if he was enveloped by a cold aura, causing him to be startled. Just one look was enough to make him feel scared. This man was definitely not an ordinary person. "I'm sorry, he's like this." Fengjiu smiled apologetically. It's okay. Chairman Ku chuckled and followed him inside. Linghua asked the innkeeper to prepare some food and wine and send it to the room on the second floor. The innkeeper didn't dare to be negligent, and hurriedly ordered the waiter to give the order. In his heart, he let out a light sigh. It was fine as long as they weren't here to cause trouble. He was just afraid that the inn would be smashed. In the room on the second floor, Fengjiu, Ling Mohan, and Chairman Ku sat down at the table in the outer room. After the food and drinks were served, Linghua poured tea for the three of them and stood aside quietly. "Ninth young lord, this is a gift I've prepared for you." President Ku gestured for someone to bring the gift over. "How can I accept such a gift from President Ku?" President Ku smiled and said, "It's just some local specialties. It's not an expensive gift. Ninth young master, please accept it." If Fengjiu didn't dare to do so, it would be embarrassing. Therefore, she gestured for Linghua to put the gift away and said to Chairman Ku, "Thank you very much, Chairman Ku. Forgive me for being presumptuous. In fact, I've come to visit today because I have a request." He didn't beat around the bush and directly stated his purpose. Hearing this, Fengjiu glanced at Ling Mohan, who was quietly drinking tea, and looked at Chairman Ku with a smile. Chairman Ku is the chairman of the black market. If it's something that even Chairman Ku can't do, I'm afraid I can't help. Chapter 530. Seeing this, Fengjiu had no choice but to say, "President Ku, tell me about it." To be honest, my cultivation has been stagnant ever since I entered the nascent soul stage. I haven't been able to find the root of the problem. I heard from my clan brother that the 9th young master's medical skills are amazing. It's rare to meet the 9th young master here, so I'd like to ask the 9th young master to take a look at me. Oh! Fengjiu was surprised. She originally thought that he wanted to ask for a pill, so she rejected him directly. She hadn't been refining pills recently, and her control of pills wasn't as good as that of medicine. But since he was asking for help, there was no harm. Show me your hand. She motioned for him to show his wrist. Hearing this, President Ku was overjoyed. He immediately rolled up his sleeves slightly, exposing his wrist on the table. He watched as the ghost doctor raised her hand to take his pulse, but at this moment, cough. A light cough was heard, startling him and the ghost doctor. They glanced at Ling Mohan, who was staring at them with one hand on his lips and slowly putting it down after a light cough. They didn't understand what was going on. Ling Mohan glanced at the two of them. His deep gaze swept across the room and landed on Ling Hua. He ordered in a deep voice, "Why aren't you getting a handkerchief for your master?" Hearing this, the few people in the room were instantly petrified. The shock on their faces couldn't be concealed. Especially President Ku, who opened his mouth wide in shock. He looked at the bearded man dumbfoundedly. What did this mean? Could it be that he couldn't let the 9th young master's hand touch his? Her lips moved and she wanted to ask, but when she saw the cold gaze of the man who was sitting upright, she felt a chill run down her spine and her whole body withered in an instant. Hearing this, Ling Hua glanced at his master, then took out a thin handkerchief from his sleeve to cover President Ku's wrist. He explained, "My master has always been like this when he takes a pulse. I didn't know the 9th young master's rules. Fortunately, this young master Ling reminded me." He smiled sheepishly. As the president of the black market, he was afraid of the bearded man. No one would believe him even if he told them. Feng Jiu glanced at Ling Mohan with a faint smile, then stretched out a few fingers and pressed on Chairman Ku's wrist. After feeling, she couldn't help but be startled. Then, she smiled and said, "Chairman Ku, don't be too nervous. Relax, your pulse is beating too fast. I can't diagnose it accurately." "Oh, okay. Although he responded like this, he couldn't relax when he saw the bearded man's eyes staring at them. Seeing that, Feng Jiu could only shake his head helplessly and withdraw his hand. "This won't do. We can't find anything. Let's eat first and search later." As she spoke, she looked at Ling Mohan and asked with a teasing smile, "Uncle, I see that you've been coughing a lot recently. Is it because you're old and your health isn't too good? Do you want me to show you?" Hearing this, Ling Mohan looked slightly uncomfortable and picked up the teacup to drink again. His eyes looked to the other side, and he didn't respond to her words. Chairman Ku looked back and forth between the two of them. Seeing their strange expressions, a thought came to his mind. These two aren't gay, are they? Chapter 531. During the meal, Ling Mohan constantly helped Feng Jiu to put food in his bowl. President Ku ate and talked with him. After the meal, he felt like he had eaten something, but he didn't know what he had eaten. In short, he didn't know what to eat. Feng Jiu saw that President Ku had been in a nervous state with Ling Mohan here. He couldn't help but smile and looked at the person sitting upright. "Uncle, why don't you go out for a walk? To help with digestion?" Hearing her words, Ling Mohan glanced at her, and then looked at Chairman Ku, who was a little tense. Under his gaze, President Ku hurriedly said, that, why don't I?" Before he finished speaking, the bearded man had already stood up and walked out without saying a word. "President Ku, relax, don't be too nervous." She couldn't help but laugh. A dignified president of the black market was actually scared by Ling Mohan to the point of trembling. But that was also true. That guy's pressure and momentum were not comparable to ordinary people, and it was indeed quite scary. President Ku smiled embarrassedly, relaxed his tense mood, and then stretched out his hand. Fengjiu felt his pulse and frowned slightly. After a long while, he said, "Your body is quite good in all aspects, and there is no pain. The reason why you can't advance and are stuck in the early yuanying stage is because you have an old injury in your body. This old injury is damaged and hinders your advancement. Do you feel pain 2 fingers below your left abdomen every once in a while?" Hearing Fengjiu's words, President Ku was startled, and his eyes gradually widened in surprise. Yes, there is such a place that occasionally hurts, and that place was injured more than 20 years ago. I have asked some doctors, and they all said that it has been too long and they can't cure it completely. I didn't expect that it was caused by this old injury. It is indeed difficult to cure, because it has been too long. Fengjiu said, frowning slightly. It is difficult to cure it with medicine, but there is a way. 9th young master, please advise. Go and look for a rank 6 vitality recovery pill. Only a rank 6 vitality recovery pill can heal your old injuries. Even medicine can't reach that level of healing efficacy. The level 6 recovery pill was a pill used to heal internal injuries. At the same time, it also had the ability to heal old injuries. However, she was unable to refine a level 6 recovery pill at the moment. Hearing Fengjiu's words, Chairman Ku sighed softly. I've heard of the level 6 recovery pill that 9th young master mentioned, but it's a level 6 recovery pill. Even in the entire Yen kingdom, you can't find a single one. Although an alchemist was similar to a pharmacist, the effects of alchemy were far more powerful than that of pharmacists. However, it was precisely because of the powerful effects of alchemy that there would be a lot of alchemy toxins. The higher the level of the alchemy, the more successful it would be to refine it. Level 6 alchemy pills were extremely rare even in the surrounding third-class countries. Even if there were, they would have been taken away by the major powers and clans. No matter how powerful the black market was, he was only a president. How could he have the ability to obtain such a priceless and precious alchemy pill? Thus, he once again placed his hopes on Fengjiu. 9th young master, I heard from my younger brother that besides being a pharmacist, you are also an alchemist. Could it be that even you can't do anything? Chapter 532. At this time, she was thinking that after she found her grandfather, she would first return to the Phoenix dynasty to study alchemy, and then prepare to advance to the foundation establishment stage. That should be enough. As for her mother, with her current strength, she wouldn't be able to do much even if she went to a first-tier powerful country. She might as well advance to the foundation establishment stage first. Just as she was thinking, she saw President Ku sitting in front of her with a worried face. She remembered that he was President Ku's elder brother from the Qing country. President Ku had helped her a lot and even gave her a luxurious flying ship. Thus, after thinking for a while, she said, President Ku, actually, you don't have to worry now. Your injury won't be a big problem for the next 50 years. It's just that it will be difficult for you to advance in your cultivation. However, if it can be cured, advancing to the next level is just around the corner. Who knew that it would have been better if she hadn't said anything? Once she did, President Ku's face turned pale. What? Won't be a big problem for the next 50 years? Then 9th young lord means that there might be a problem in the next 50 years? If you keep cultivating, then your internal injury will continue to be stimulated, so I suggest that before this injury is cured, it's best to stabilize your cultivation. Don't try to advance to the next level. She wasn't trying to scare him. If he kept trying to advance with an old injury, then his internal injury would also be stimulated. Hearing this, President Ku sighed. Unfortunately, this injury was caused after I entered the nascent soul stage. If it was before the nascent soul stage, then this wouldn't have happened on the day the nascent soul was formed. Saying this, he stood up and bowed to Fengjiu. No matter what, I have to thank Ninth Young Lord today. These years, I have asked many doctors, but no one could tell what the problem was. Now that Ninth Young Lord has mentioned it, I know what to do in the future. Seeing this, Fengjiu didn't know what to say. After giving him a few instructions, he personally sent him out. After President Ko left, Fengjiu looked around and didn't see Ling Mohan. Especially when he saw that Ing Yi and Hui Lang were also here without their master, he asked, "Where's your master? Why aren't the two of you guarding here?" Master said that he's going out for a walk. He doesn't need us to follow him. We just need to guard the ninth young master, Ing Yi replied, standing straight by the door. Hee, ninth young master, my master is worried about you. That's why he told us to guard it. Hui Lang grinned and asked, "Ninth young master, you said you wanted to give me something. What is it?" Upon hearing this, even Ing Yi looked at Fengjiu. However, he felt that she would at most give Hui Lang some self-defense potions. After all, she was a pharmacist and had no shortage of potions. "Hui Lang, you've been in the golden core stage for a long time, haven't you?" she asked with a smile, looking him up and down. "Actually, it's not that long. I entered the golden core stage much faster than the average person. Master gave us a lot of pills to increase our strength." With their master's status, they indeed did not lack those medicinal pills. Therefore, other than their own talents, they were able to advance so quickly with the help of medicinal pills. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to reach the gold core stage at their age. Chapter 533. Hearing this, Hui Lang replied with a serious expression, "Yes, our master's status is extremely honorable. Ninth young lord, don't miss this opportunity." Fengjiu's mouth twitched and he looked at him speechlessly. Sure enough, like master, like subordinate. "Ninth young lord, where's my present?" His eyes lit up. Although he had to hand over his present, seeing what the ghost doctor gave him was still worth being excited about. "The medicine I concocted during the examination." She took out the medicine from her space and handed it to him while saying, "Although your master has plenty of medicinal pills, this is also a token of my sincerity. Consider it as thanks for running errands for me during that time." She was referring to the matter of him drugging Murong Bo at night. "Many thanks, ninth young lord." Hui Lang's eyes lit up and he happily took the medicine. He said, "Ninth young lord's medicine can't be bought with money. It's different from the ones my master gave me. However, ninth young lord, can you tell me about the effects and uses of this medicine? It can help you increase your strength. It's only suitable for Aurus Core stage cultivators," she said as she walked back to her room. She had gone to the pharmacist guild early in the morning for the examination, so she was a bit sleepy now. It was better to go back and sleep first. As she walked into her room, she said to the Leng Shuang behind her, "I'm going to sleep for a while. Don't disturb me." "Yes." The Leng Shuang answered and closed the door. He then stood outside the door. Seeing Fengjiu return to his room, Ing Yi looked at Hui Lang and said, "You're in luck. The medicine refined by ninth young lord is definitely not inferior to those people's. If you drink this medicine, you might be able to directly enter the nascent soul stage." Hui Lang was also very happy at this time, but he didn't lose his head. Instead, he carefully put away the medicine. "Master said that I shouldn't try to break through to the nascent soul stage for now. He said that I should take root and wait until he says I can break through to the nascent soul stage. At that time, my foundation will be much more stable and my path of cultivation will be much longer." "Hey, where do you think Master went? Why hasn't he come back yet?" Hui Lang looked around and didn't see his master's figure. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. Based on their master's personality, he would rather stay in his room than go out for a walk. Originally, They thought that he would come back after walking around the neighborhood, but who knew that he still hadn't seen him until now. However, what the two of them didn't expect was that after the time it took for an incense stick to burn, their master returned, but there was a woman following behind him. It can't be? Who's that girl? Hui Lang was a little dumbfounded. His master had gone out for a round. How could he have provoked someone like that? She looks familiar, Ingy said, staring at the woman behind their master. Familiar? I can't think of it. I only know that if ninth young lord finds out, it'll be terrible. When Hui Lang said this, even Ingy fell silent. Ling Mohan's face was slightly gloomy, and his whole body exuded a cold air, but the person following him seemed to be unaware of it. She kept walking beside him, trying to talk to him. After entering the inn, they went directly to the second floor. Ling Mohan glanced at the closed room, looked at Hui Lang and asked, "Where is she?" "Ninth young lord is taking a nap." Chapter 534. Ling Mohan glanced at him, did not answer and went straight into the room, only leaving a sentence. "Don't let anyone disturb my rest." Looking at the door slamming shut, Hui Lang touched his nose and glanced at Ingy. Seeing his face in contemplation, he asked, "What are you thinking about?" "That woman, I remember," Ingy said. His eyes moved away from the woman below and fell on Hui Lang. Who? He often followed Master. How could he not remember who this woman was? The mentor from the 6-Star Academy who came from a third-class country, also an admirer of Master. Ingy said, looking at the woman downstairs, and said, "I didn't expect to meet her in this place." Speaking of this, his face was a bit strange. He was thinking, if this woman was seen by the ghost doctor, what would happen? This was an admirer of Master. It's her. No wonder I thought she looked familiar. Hui Lang suddenly remembered who the woman downstairs was. When their master used the identity of Ling Mohan to mingle in the Qingting Kingdom's 6-Star Academy, this woman was said to have been pestering their master. They had also seen her before, but they did not expect that the female mentor of the 6-Star Academy would actually come here and meet their master. "Hey, what do you think will happen if the ghost doctor sees the woman downstairs?" Hui Lang asked curiously, his eyes flashing with excitement. Ingy glanced at him. "Won't you know when the time comes?" Hearing this, although they knew it was true, but at this time their hearts were excited. They were not worried that the ghost doctor would suffer a loss in the hands of that woman. They were just excited to know, if the ghost doctor saw a woman who dared to pester their master, what would the ghost doctor do? Jealous? They seemed to have never heard of the ghost doctor being jealous. They could not imagine the picture at all. Angry? This was very likely. However, what made them wait for a while was that Fengjiu slept until the sky gradually darkened, and the streets were lit with red lanterns. Among them, even their master had woken up, walked out of the room, and sat down on the first floor. As for the woman, since she came back with their master, she did not leave. Therefore, when Ling Mohan came to the first floor to drink tea, she was not afraid of the cold air on his body, came to his table and sat down, as if she was familiar with him. Of course, Ling Mohan just sipped his tea quietly and didn't say a word. He didn't even look at the beautiful woman. Until he heard the sound of the door opening on the second floor, his eyes slightly moved, as if he was waiting for something, and sat quietly. Feng Nine, who had just woken up, was still sleepy. Her half-squinted eyes were a little languid. She was wearing a dazzling red dress. The lapel of her dress was slightly open, probably because she had just woken up, and her snow-white skin was exposed. She raised her hand slightly to yawn, and casually asked Leng Shuang, who was guarding by the door, "What's the matter?" She raised her hand slightly to yawn, and casually asked Leng Shuang, who was guarding the door, "Uncle, are you back yet?" "He's back, he's sitting downstairs," Leng Shuang replied, his eyes sweeping downstairs. Fengjiu heard and walked to the railing to take a look down. With this look, She could not help but widen her eyes. Her sleepiness was greatly awakened, her face full of disbelief and curiosity. Chapter 535. Upon hearing this, Hui Lang, who had been waiting for her to wake up, quickly said, "No, no, ninth young master, please don't misunderstand. She was not brought back by my master, she followed him back by herself." Upon hearing this, Fengjiu blinked and asked curiously, "You know her? A stranger dared to stick to uncle? She must have some guts. She is a teacher at Qingting Kingdom's 6-star academy and an admirer of my master. It is said that she came from a third-class country, but I don't know why she has been pestering my master." Speaking of this, he quickly assured, "But my master has never been nice to her, please don't misunderstand." Misunderstand? She rolled her eyes and looked at Ling Mohan, who was sitting down and drinking tea, but did not chase the woman away. A sly light flashed in her eyes, and the smile on her lips was even a bit strange at this moment. "No, no, I won't misunderstand." She smiled and waved her hand. Then, she walked down the stairs. Ling Mohan, who was drinking tea, was looking forward to it. He really wanted to know what she would do when she saw a woman pestering him. Jealous? This was unlikely, that woman did not know what jealousy was. Happy? This was more like it. She would probably try to sell him to others. "Mohan, my house is in this area. Since you are here, why don't you stay at my house? Staying at an inn is not as comfortable as staying at your own house," the woman said softly, her beautiful eyes filled with joy. She did not expect that she would meet someone who she had not heard from for so long. If this was not fate, then what was? "Uncle, who is this beautiful sister?" Feng Jiu smiled and squinted his eyes. His handsome and delicate face looked harmless and innocent. When he looked at the woman, he put his hands on Ling Mohan's shoulders. Ling Mohan was stunned. He turned his head slightly and looked at the slender fingers that were as tender as ginger. When the woman heard Feng Jiu's words, she was happy, but when she saw that it was a handsome young man who put his hands on Ling Mohan's shoulders and asked with a smile, she was unhappy. She knew that the bearded Ling Mohan hated it the most when others touched him. Just as she was about to scold him, she saw a scene that made her dumbfounded. "You're awake? Did you sleep well?" A low and deep voice that carried a hint of magnetism sounded out, and it was mellow like fine wine, causing others to be involuntarily intoxicated. But after he tilted his head slightly and glanced at the hand on his shoulder, his deep eyes moved slightly, and he naturally reached out to hold Feng Jiu's hand. He pulled her into his arms and directly held her in his arms, not letting go. Not only did the woman widen her eyes in astonishment, but even the guests on the first floor turned their heads to stare at the two of them in astonishment. However, the difference was that they were a little more clear-headed than the woman. It was as if they knew it would be like this. Feng Jiu's eyes widened. She did not expect this uncle to be so shameless. She wanted to tease him, but who knew that he would beat her at her own game? Wasn't she rushing forward to let him take advantage of her? Chapter 536. Since he wanted to play, then she would accompany him to the end. Thus, she wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face in the crook of his neck. Her voice carried a hint of laziness and a hint of coquettishness as she whispered, "Uncle, I couldn't sleep well without you by my side." Ling Mohan's body suddenly stiffened and his whole body tensed up. The hateful little woman in his arms had intentionally or unintentionally sprayed her breath on his neck. That intimate whisper was like a kitten's, and it easily set him on fire. Feeling his body heating up, he couldn't help but smile bitterly in his heart. Was he getting into trouble? He didn't expect that once he touched her, the self-control that he had always been proud of would go out of control. The most hateful thing was that the little woman in his arms even raised her head shyly and looked around. "Uncle, let go of me quickly. This is the first floor." It's not good to have so many people watching. The face of the woman sitting across the table turned green and white. She looked at Ling Mohan in shock and disbelief, and then looked at the enchanting and charming handsome young man. At this moment, she finally understood why Ling Mohan had always treated women with such disdain. It turned out that it wasn't that she wasn't charming enough, nor was it that she wasn't good enough. It was because he was gay. He only liked men. As for the four people standing at the side, they felt helpless when they saw the two masters playing in front of so many people. These two masters didn't care about the gazes of others when they were playing, so they didn't think much of it. However, when they saw the astonished gazes around them, they felt their scalps go numb. "It's okay, I don't care." He hugged her with one hand and took a sip of tea with the other to hide the smile on his lips. He asked again, "Are you thirsty?" Seeing that he didn't put down the teacup and stared at her with a pair of burning eyes, Feng Zhou's mouth twitched and she smiled embarrassedly. "No, I'm not thirsty." She didn't want to drink the tea that he had drunk. "Well, Teacher Ling, I suddenly remembered that I have something to do at home. I won't disturb you." The woman on the other side finally couldn't stand it anymore. Thinking that the man she liked was actually gay, she even had the heart to die at this moment. Fortunately, she discovered it now. Otherwise, she would still be thinking about how to find him. The two of them turned their heads at the same time and looked at the woman with an ugly expression. She quickly got up and left as if she was escaping. Feng Zhou was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but laugh. "Uncle, it seems like your admirer isn't that great." As she was laughing, she saw the man's pair of deep black eyes staring at her. She felt guilty and asked, What's wrong? Just now you said that you can't sleep well without me." There was a hint of a smile in his deep voice, and a hint of a smile and gentleness appeared in his eyes. Feng Zhou was unable to look straight at his gentle gaze, and he began to play dumb again. Was there? Why don't I remember?" As she spoke, she struggled to jump out of his arms, but the arm around her waist held her tightly and she couldn't move at all. Seeing this, she could only smile embarrassedly and look at him. "Uncle, look, this is the first floor. Everyone is watching." Chapter 537. Hearing this, no matter how thick-skinned Feng Zhou was, she was embarrassed at this time. A faint blush appeared on her delicate face. Coupled with her slightly embarrassed expression, it was a pleasing and charming scenery in Ling Mohan's eyes. Ling Mohan did not continue, but the corners of his mouth curved slightly, a smile floated on his lips, but, because of his beard, it could not be seen. "I'll accompany you to the night market in the city." He stood up holding her hand, and without waiting for her to refuse, he led her out. The four people behind him looked at each other, all smiled and followed. The guests on the first floor also laughed loudly. After seeing so many of them, they were not surprised. Moreover, from the moment these people moved in, they could see that the relationship between the two was not ordinary. Sure enough, it was confirmed today. It seemed that their eyes were still very sharp. Even the flirting between the two big men couldn't escape their eyes. Feng Zhou woke up in the evening, and spent a while on the first floor. At this time, she was led out of the inn by him, and saw that the shops on both sides of the street were hung up with red lanterns, and the pedestrians were very lively on the street, so she forgot about the incident in the inn. But why did she feel so strange when she looked down at the man holding her hands, with their fingers interlocked? "Uncle, are you going to take me shopping like this?" She waved her interlocked hands, and stared at him with a pair of smiling eyes. "You want to attract the attention of the whole night market." It was estimated that in the whole night market, there would not be a pair like them. Ba. What pair? She was not a pair with him. "I don't care, why do you care?" He glanced at her, but he was in a good mood. In the past, he had never thought that he would hold a woman's hand, and slowly walk with her on the street with their fingers interlocked. He only knew that this feeling was very strange, and it made his heart happy. From the corner of his eye, he glanced at the woman who was looking around, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. He felt that, with her by his side, it was as if he had the whole world. That kind of satisfaction, that kind of happiness, was something that others could not understand. However, it was easy to win her heart, but difficult to win her heart. What should he do to make her happy? It seemed that he had to think carefully about whether or not he should try the beauty trap. The two strolled until late at night and ate supper before returning home. There were very few pedestrians on the street. Only the red lanterns hanging in front of the shops on both sides swayed gently in the night wind, making it seem very quiet and secluded. Compared to the things in the inns and restaurants, the street snacks are really more unique. I ate so much tonight that I'm still full. Her face was overflowing with a satisfied smile. Seeing that she was so easily satisfied, Ling Mohan's eyes softened. Since you like it, I'll take you to eat the local snacks every time we go to a place. When she heard this, her heart trembled slightly. She looked at him beside her and all sorts of feelings welled up in her heart. What's wrong? Ling Mohan asked, looking at her slightly lowered head, surprised by the change in her mood. Fengjiu shook her head. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to tell him that she didn't know how to respond to feelings. She was also afraid that she couldn't respond to his devotion and affection. Chapter 538. There were only a few people left on the street, but dozens of men in black suddenly appeared. Each of them was filled with a murderous aura, and they were charging towards them with long swords. Because of the appearance of the dozens of people, the people who were packing up the stalls on the street cried out in alarm. They threw down their things and ran for their lives. The atmosphere of the entire street changed because of the appearance of the dozens of men in black. That kind of bloodthirsty aura and coercion shrouded the surroundings in an instant, causing the air to freeze. Fengjiu, who was protected in Ling Mohan's arms, felt that something was wrong. She patted his hand and said, "Let go of me." The strength of these people was not simple. The lowest cultivation level was in the Golden Core realm, and there were several nascent Soul realm cultivators among them. It was impossible for such a strong person to be sent out to deal with her, but to deal with Ling Mohan. No, perhaps it was not for Ling Mohan's identity, but his original identity. Otherwise, no force would send so many strong cultivators to kill him at once. Such strong cultivators must be trying to take his life. That's right, tonight seemed to be the 15th. These people seemed to like to attack on the 15th. They probably thought that Ling Mohan's body was the weakest on the 15th, and that the millennium chill in his body would act up. However, they did not know that with her pill suppressing the millennium chill, although it could not be cured temporarily, it would not act up again. With the coercion of the ancient mythical beast in her body and Ling Mohan's protection, she was not afraid of the coercion and murderous aura coming from all directions. However, Ling Shuang and Ling Hua, who were following behind her, turned pale under the coercion, and blood spilled out of their mouths. Grey Wolf and Ying Yi instantly stood in front of their two masters. At the same time, they released a signal. With a bang, a firework exploded in the night sky. In an instant, dozens of black-clothed men appeared and attacked the black-clothed man in front of them from behind. Ling Shuang and Ling Hua, come closer. She quickly ordered them to come closer. At the same time, she released the ancient aura in her body, forming a shield to block the coercion of the strong cultivators around them. Seeing this scene, Ling Mohan lowered his head and glanced at her, but did not let go of her. He continued to hold her in his arms and protect her. The person who came was at least a Jindan stage cultivator. Even though her skills were not bad, he was still worried about her leaving his side. Only by protecting her in his arms could he ensure that she would not suffer the slightest bit of harm. These people are here for you. Fengjiu frowned and said, "They're very strong. Their bloodthirsty aura is stronger than the average assassin's, and they're fighting without any regard for their lives. Your opponents aren't simple. Are you afraid? His lips curled as his deep gaze fell on her face. Scared? She raised her eyebrows and looked at him. She smiled and asked, "If I said I was scared, would you let go?" "I won't." He hugged her tightly and stared at her with his dark eyes. His low and magnetic voice was serious and domineering. "I'll never let go of you, and you don't have to be afraid. No matter how dangerous it is, I'll protect you and won't let anyone hurt you." Hearing this, her heart trembled. Her heart failed to live up to her expectations and started to beat wildly. She stared at him in a daze amidst the glint of the sword. It was as if there was a voice in her heart telling her not to hesitate, not to be afraid, try to believe, try to love. However, the words that came out of her mouth were, "Sigh. I knew that nothing good would come out of being associated with you." Chapter 539. Fengjiu rolled her eyes and said angrily, "Someone wants to kill you. How can you still laugh?" She paused and looked at the men in black with a strange expression. "How come I didn't know there were so many masters protecting us in the dark?" All of them were either at the peak of the Golden Elixir realm or at the Yuanying realm. It felt like there were a lot of them. Where did this guy come from? Even the top families couldn't compare with this kind of power. Furthermore, her vigilance had always been high. There were so many people protecting her in the dark, but she didn't notice them all the way? Was she not vigilant enough? Or were these people good at hiding their aura? "You don't know them, but they know you," Ling Mohan said and looked at the people fighting in front of them. He put his arm around her waist and said, "Leave this to them. Let's go back first." Hearing this, Fengjiu looked at Ling Shuang and Ling Hua. With her blocking the pressure for them, their expressions eased a lot. However, the aura of the battle here was too strong. With their strength, they couldn't bear it, so they nodded. "Okay, let's go back first." Hui Lang and Ying Yi protected them as they left, and the men in black who came out to attack them were surrounded and killed by Ling Mohan's men. Fortunately, there were no civilians on the street in the middle of the night. As for the shops on both sides, they had already closed their doors and windows and hid. The battle started and ended in the middle of the night. Back at the inn, Fengjiu asked someone to prepare water for her to take a bath. After drying her hair, she put on her underwear and called out to Ling Shuang and Ling Hua outside, "Come in, you two." "Master." The two entered the room and came to her. Fengjiu looked at the two who were still pale although their aura had eased. She took out 2 bottles of medicine from her space and said, "Drink one of these 2 bottles of medicine each. Rest early tonight." The two of them didn't take it. Instead, they lowered their heads. "Master, we're sorry." Only at this moment did the two of them realize that they might be able to protect their master in the Phoenix dynasty, but outside, with their strength, if they were to encounter an expert, they wouldn't even be able to protect themselves. However, Fengjiu smiled slightly and said softly, "The weakest of those people is at least in the middle of the Golden Core stage, and there are several nascent Soul stage cultivators moving out at the slightest provocation. Their origins must be extraordinary. Not to mention you, if I didn't have a contract with Xiaohua, I wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure of such powerful cultivators. Besides, those are all old monsters. You guys are still young. There's no need to rush. Cultivate slowly and you'll become stronger one day." When she said this, she suddenly thought that if those people were old monsters, then what about Ling Mohan? His cultivation was unfathomable. How could there be such a heaven-defying freak at the age of 25? Hearing her words, the siblings looked at each other, and a warm current flowed through their hearts. Master was still comforting them and encouraging them at this time. How could they disappoint her? "Thank you, Master. We understand." The two of them bowed respectfully. After receiving the medicine, they left the room. On the other side, after instructing Hui Lang and Ying Yi to make some arrangements, Ling Mohan came to Fengjiu's room. Seeing her sitting at the table in a daze, he asked, "What are you thinking about?" Chapter 540. Ling Mohan saw that she was only wearing her underwear, and her collar was still loose. He could not help but look at her and said, "Didn't you say so? That you can't sleep well without me by your side?" He came to the table and sat down. His eyes swept across the room, and could not help but fall on the spring scenery. "So, I came over." Seeing that his eyes kept glancing at her collar, Fengju looked down. She had just finished bathing and did not bind her chest. Her underwear was slightly loose, and her collar was faintly discernible. In fact, he could only see a patch of snow-white skin, and nothing else. But that man's eyes, since he came in for a short while, had already glanced at her collar twice. Were all men like this? Would they unconsciously steal glances at the spring scenery? "Do I look good?" Her lips curved slightly as she asked with a smile. "Cough." Ling Mohan coughed dryly and looked away uncomfortably, as if he had been caught peeking. "How about this?" She tugged at her loose inner garment, revealing a round, snowy shoulder. She even gave him a flirtatious look. Ling Mohan, who had looked away uncomfortably, could not help but look at her again. His eyes fell on her seductive shoulder, and his gaze was deep and burning. He asked in a hoarse voice, "Are you seducing me?" "Useless." She sneered and glanced at him in amusement. She pulled her underwear up. "How dare you come to my room in the middle of the night with such little willpower?" Hearing this, he adjusted his mind and glanced at her. "When it comes to you, I have no willpower. So, you'd better not try to seduce me. Otherwise, you can't blame me if anything happens. Have you dealt with those people?" She looked at him and poured him a glass of water. Ling Mohan took it and took a sip to suppress the fire in his heart. "Yes, they've all been dealt with." His expression was very calm, and his tone was very disapproving. Obviously, this was not the first time such a thing had happened, and he had long been accustomed to it. Tonight is the 15th, and it seems that they all like to pick the 15th to take action. She rested her chin on one hand and looked at him. "How much medicine do you have left? There shouldn't be any reaction after eating it, right? No matter how precious the fire attribute elixir is, it can't suppress the 1,000-year cold chi in my body. You must have used the blood of the ancient fire phoenix, right?" It was clearly a question, but the meaning behind his words was extremely certain. "Yes, smart." She smiled and rolled her eyes. Her tone was a little proud. "So, the matter of me stealing your 1,000-year-old ginseng and tricking you is enough to make up for it. You should know that my medicine is not easy to get." Hearing this, Ling Mohan could not help but laugh and said, "If you want anything in the future, just tell me directly. Will you give it to me just because I tell you?" She rolled her eyes and asked with a smile. "Yes, everything that is mine will be yours." He paused and looked deeply at her. "Even if it is me, it will also be yours." Forget it." She smiled sheepishly. Even if she was lustful, she didn't have the guts to pounce on him. When she thought of him being pressed on top of her, that image was too beautiful to imagine. Chapter 541. It's the middle of the night, it's time to sleep. He carried her and walked into the room, ignoring her low cries and struggles. He only put her on the bed when he reached it. Then, he took off his outer robe and tore off the beard on his face. He looked at the woman who was hugging the quilt and glaring at him and said, "You sleep inside, I'll sleep outside." You want to sleep here?" She widened her eyes. This man had said himself that he had no self-control when it came to her, but he still dared to squeeze in the same bed with her? This was the rhythm of wanting to ignite a fire with a touch of dry wood. "Yes." He nodded, and a smile flashed across his eyes. "No." She refused without thinking, like a little tiger occupying her territory. "Go back next door. In order to ensure your safety, I will stay in the same room and sleep in the same bed as you for the rest of the journey. Your refusal is invalid, you have to learn to adapt. He took off his outer robe and unbuttoned his inner robe. Fengjiu, who was occupying the entire bed, widened her eyes in shock. You, don't tell me that you have a habit of sleeping without clothes? She swallowed her saliva unconsciously, and her eyes shone with a wolf's light. She had a look of rejection just a moment ago and was glaring at him angrily, but now she was swallowing her saliva and staring at him with a wolf's light in her eyes. Ling Mohan could not help but glance at her, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. If that's what you want, I'll be happy to accompany you. If you do this, I won't be able to get married. Seeing him take off his boots and sit on the bed, she sighed helplessly. It doesn't matter, because you will only marry me in the end. His words were domineering, with a hint of a smile, but he did not lie down directly. Instead, he picked up the quilt and wrapped her into a ball, and then hugged her directly to sleep outside. He ignored the woman who was staring at him in shock, and just gently patted her head. Be good, go to sleep. How can I sleep when you wrap me up like this? She widened her eyes and looked at her hands and feet wrapped in the quilt, with only her head exposed. She was speechless. Could she sleep like this? Could she sleep like this? What did he mean by wrapping her up like this? Close your eyes and you'll fall asleep. He hugged the woman wrapped in the quilt, thinking that this way, he would not have any thoughts. You. Fengjiu opened her eyes, and just as she spoke, her acupoint was hit and she fell asleep. You can sleep like this, go to sleep. When I have self-control, you won't be wrapped up like this. He murmured with a smile. He felt that he had to get used to her sleeping by his side for a few days. When that time came, he could just hug her to sleep. That way, he wouldn't have any random thoughts. As the night deepened, Ling Mohan, who was lying on the bed, hugged the unconscious woman who was wrapped in the quilt and fell into a deep sleep with satisfaction. Because of the joy in his heart, even when he was asleep, the corners of his lips were slightly curved into a faint smile. Chapter 542. The next morning, whether it was on the streets or in the inn, everything seemed to be normal. There was liveliness amidst the calm. The massacre on the streets last night seemed to be just an illusion. There were no corpses or blood. The hawkers started to set up their stalls again, shouting for business and starting a new day of busyness. Around 7 in the morning, Elder Yu of the Pharmacists' Guild and a president of the Pharmacists' Guild came to the inn. They asked around and found out that Fengjiu was staying in the Five Blessings Inn, so they came early this morning. When he left for the examination yesterday, the Grand Elder called him over. Even the president, who was in seclusion refining medicine, was alerted. The three of them discussed and felt that they could not miss out on such a genius pharmacist with a bright future. It was rare for him to come to their Pharmacists' Guild for the examination badge, and this time he was a medicine sage. A 16-year-old medicine sage, in a few years, he would be even more outstanding. If they missed out on such a genius, they would definitely regret it in the future. Therefore, after discussing, Elder Yu and the president of the Pharmacists' Guild came in person. They planned to persuade Fengjiu to become a guest elder of their Pharmacists' Guild no matter what. They knew very well that in a few years, the young man's achievements would be even greater. At that time, if they wanted to climb up to him, it would be even more impossible. Sirs, this is the president of the Pharmacists' Guild looking for the young master in red. The innkeeper personally led them over, his heart thumping wildly. He had been running this inn for so many years, but this was the first time that the president of the black market had come to visit personally. Even the president of the Pharmacists' Guild and the famous medicine sage Yu had come to their inn to look for the young master in red. There were really strange things every year, but this year there were especially many. His heart felt like it had been under attack ever since the young man in red and the others moved in. If this happened a few more times, he reckoned that he would really fall ill. Hui Lang and Ing Yi did not know the president of the Pharmacists' Guild and that medicine Seiju. Therefore, when they heard that the people who came were the president of the Pharmacists' Guild, they looked at the two of them in surprise, not knowing which one was the president. While Hui Lang and Ing Yi were sizing up the two guards were also sizing them up. Although the two guards were dressed as guards, their aura and cultivation were astonishing. They couldn't help but be secretly shocked. Elder Yu revealed a faint smile on his face and said, "My surname is Yu, and this is our president's president. Today we have come to look for Xiao Jiu to discuss something. Please help me pass on the message." Upon hearing this, Hui Lang came to a realization. "Oh, so you're Yu, medicine sage." He originally wanted to say, "So you're the old man Yu that ninth young master spoke of." However, after thinking about it, the words that were about to come out of his mouth took a turn. "That's me." Elder Yu did not know what he was thinking, nor did he know that Fengjiu was hopping mad because he missed out on benefits when he returned. At this moment, he still had a smile on his face as he said, "I wonder if Xiao Jiu, ninth young master. He seems to have slept rather late last night and hasn't woken up yet." Hui Lang said, "No, please take a seat downstairs first, I'll report." Before he finished speaking, Ling Mohan, who was dressed in a black robe and had a big beard, walked out. He glanced at the few people outside the room, and his gaze fell on Elder Yu and the president. He asked in a deep voice, "Why are you looking for her? You are?" Chapter 543. Perhaps sensing Ling Mohan's extraordinary aura, the guild president said, "We have something to discuss with him, but it's inconvenient to tell outsiders. Please help us pass on the message." Hearing this, Ling Mohan glanced at them and walked into the room next door. Without turning his head, he said to Ling Shuang, "Go in and tell your master." Ling Shuang nodded and entered the room. When she came to the inner room, she saw her master who was rolled up with only his head exposed. Her eyes flashed and she called out in surprise, "Master?" "Yes." Fengjiu answered lazily without opening her eyes. "The guild president of the Pharmacist Guild and Elder Yu are here." When she said this, her master, who was still sleepy, jumped up from the bed and opened his eyes to look at her, giving her a fright. "You said Elder Yu is here?" "Yes, and their guild president is here too. He said he has something to discuss with Master." Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes turned and she smiled, saying, "Help me take the blanket away. That guy rolled me up like this, I couldn't sleep well last night." Ling Shuang's eyes flashed with a smile. He helped her take the blanket away and helped her wash up and get dressed. A devilish and elegant young master appeared again. Fengjiu went downstairs. Seeing her appear, Elder Yu and the guild president also stood up. "Haha, Xiao Jiu, you're finally up." Elder Yu laughed as he looked at the young man who came down. "Elder Yu? Why are you here?" Fengjiu asked and came in front of the two. Elder Yu smiled and said, "I've booked a room in a restaurant not far away. How about we talk there?" "Okay." She smiled and went out with Ling Shuang and Ling Hua. On the second floor, Ling Mohan looked at her leaving with them. He retracted his gaze and called Hui Lang and Ing Yi upstairs. Arriving at the side room of the restaurant, Elder Yu first helped to introduce the two of them, then, he opened his mouth and said, "So after the guild master found out, he said that he wanted to personally pay you a visit, and also wanted to persuade you again, that you can be a guest elder in our guild." "That's right, ninth young master. I can raise your treatment to double that of a consecrated elder. I will also report this to the first-class eunuchs and second-class guild. This way, no matter which country you go to, as long as you go there, you will be able to enjoy the highest treatment of a guest elder. However, if the guild needs your help in the future, I hope that you can help us." The guild president was afraid that he would not like the original treatment, so he said to raise his salary and register him into a first-class and second-class guild. He only hoped that this young man would accept such good treatment. Is that so? Fengjiu frowned. Her face was hesitant, but her heart was overjoyed. Yesterday, she was still complaining that Elder Yu did not speak properly and made her lose such a good opportunity. She did not expect them to come knocking on her door again today. Yes, such an opportunity was not bad. If she rejected it again, it would be unreasonable. Elder Yu and the guild president looked at each other. Their hearts were also in their mouth. They were afraid that he would reject again, so they said, "Xiaojiu, what do you think? If there's anything you're not satisfied with, you can tell us." Chapter 544. Hearing this, the two of them were overjoyed. They looked at each other and laughed. Good, good, good. Then it's settled. The guild master directly took out a jade token representing the guest elder. I even brought the guest elder's jade token. Just in time, let's settle this matter and celebrate. Hearing this, Fengjiu couldn't help but laugh. Was he afraid that she would run away? The three of them finished a series of procedures and the dishes were all served. Because of the guest elder, the three of them had a subtle change in their relationship. Well, to put it bluntly, there was some kind of involvement and they stood on the same side. Naturally, it would be different from before. The meal lasted until noon. When the three of them walked out of the restaurant, Elder Yu said that he wanted to send Fengjiu back, but was rejected. No need, it's just in front. You can go back, I won't send you off. She smiled and said to the two of them, That's good, we'll definitely have the chance to meet again in the future. The two of them said, then cupped their hands and left, happily heading back to the guild. When they were far away, Fengjiu tossed the jade token in her hand and said with a smile, What's yours will still be yours, you can't run away. Ling Shuang and Ling Hua, who were standing behind her, looked at each other and smiled. To them, as long as their master was happy, it was fine. Fengjiu looked at the bustling streets with people coming and going. Her eyes moved slightly. The scene last night, as if it didn't exist, returned to normal. This kind of method, this kind of handling, it was clear that Ling Mohan's background was not ordinary. A noble from a third-class country? Royalty? His identity was probably far more honorable than this. When she returned to the inn, she didn't see Ling Mohan. Only Hui Lang was waiting for them in the inn. Even Ing Yi was nowhere to be seen. Where's your master? Went out? She was a little surprised. That guy actually went out? Master went out to do something and may come back late. He asked ninth young master not to wait for him and to eat and drink as usual. Hui Lang grinned and conveyed his master's words. Pft, who would wait for him? She walked up the stairs and waved at Grey Wolf when she reached the second floor. Hui Lang was surprised, but he still walked up and followed him into the room. Ninth young master, what's the matter? Look. She happily tossed the jade tablet in her hand and smiled slyly. A guest elder has come to your door again, and there are even more benefits. You've earned it, haven't you? Hee, my master already knew. He said that the ninth young master would definitely not return empty-handed. Hearing this, she suddenly felt that it was meaningless. Your master is a god, just pinch his fingers and you'll know. I originally wanted to wait for him to come back and give him a surprise. As she said this, she waved her hand. You can leave. I'm going to cultivate for a while, don't let anyone disturb me. Okay. Hui Lang now obeyed her words because his master had told him that she would be his woman, which meant that she would be his wife. Naturally, he couldn't be disrespectful. After the door was closed, she glanced at the cloud-swallowing beast lying in the corner of the room, and then flashed into the space. When Ling Mohan came back at night and learned that she had become a guest elder, he just smiled. This matter was certain, the pharmacist guild wouldn't miss such a good opportunity to win her over. and that night Fengjiu guarded against him and closed the doors and windows early, so he could only go back to sleep next door. Chapter 545. Ninth Young Master, the information you asked me to investigate has arrived today. As soon as I received the information, I immediately came to find you. The Black Market's chairman Ku smiled as he spoke, walking into Fengjiu's room. Oh? So fast? She was a bit surprised at the speed of his investigation. It had only been 2 or 3 days, yet he had already found it? His ability to get things done really wasn't bad. Since I'm helping Ninth Young Master, I naturally can't delay. Chairman Ku smiled. Seeing that the room was filled with their own people, he directly said, "Speaking of, this Su-Shi is also quite a character. Otherwise we wouldn't have been able to find it so quickly." I listened to Ninth Young Master's suggestion and investigated the large families. With this investigation, I really did find it. The Su-Shi in the painting is surnamed Lin. She is a direct descendant of De Yan's Three River City's Lin family. The younger generation of the Lin family all respectfully calls her Aunt Su-Shi. Her older brother is the head of the Lin family and is a nascent soul cultivator. Even this Su-Shi is over 60 years old, but my investigation found that she had taken a face-establishing pill many years ago and maintained her appearance until she was in her 20s. At this point, Chairman Ku could not help but smile. His face revealed an expression of admiration. Because of my in-depth investigation, I found out a few secrets. It turns out that she fell in love with her older brother's sworn brother, Feng Sanyuan. Speaking of which, this Feng Sanyuan came from a small 9th-tier country, but who knew that he was able to make Su-Shi fall in love with him at first sight? Thinking about it, he must have some extraordinary qualities. As Chairman Ku spoke, he did not notice Fengjiu's strange expression and continued, "It's just a pity that Feng Sanyuan was already married at that time. Apparently, her father and brothers all decided to have Feng Sanyuan marry a second wife, but this Lin family's young miss refused. Apparently, it was because..." Fengjiu listened to Chairman Ku speak in detail about the information he had found. Some information that was not known to outsiders had been found out in great detail by the black market. The more she listened, the brighter her eyes became. She even began to admire this Aunt Su-Shi that she had never met before. She felt that the person who had kidnapped her grandfather was not an enemy. Otherwise, they would not have left the Feng manor unscathed. Moreover, based on all the clues, it was definitely someone her grandfather knew. It was just that she never thought that her grandfather, who was like an old urchin, would have such a romantic past. After hearing President Ku's words, she finally understood why he said that Aunt Su-Shi was a character. If a woman fell in love with a married man, and she had that kind of family background and power, she wouldn't have to wait for so many years. But she didn't. Instead, she chose not to destroy the family of the person she loved. Instead, she silently protected and waited for decades. Her love was not to possess, but to protect. This kind of love was very moving. According to the latest news, there seems to be an old man with a wine gourd hanging from his waist in the Lin family. It is said that Su-Shi sent people to kidnap him after she came out of seclusion. This method is really bold. However, the handsome man from decades ago has now become an old man. I'm afraid it will be very difficult for the two of them to be together. Chapter 546. Fengjiu couldn't help but laugh when she heard this. She couldn't help but laugh when she thought of her grandfather being forced to marry a woman who looked to be in her 20s. Even if she didn't see it with her own eyes, it must be very interesting. "Thank you, President Ku. I understand," she said with a smile. This was good news for them who had been worried about their grandfather. President Ku stood up and clasped his hands. "Then I won't stay any longer. Ninth Young Master, goodbye. If we meet again in the future, I will be a good host." Fengjiu stood up to send him off. At the same time, she took out a bottle of medicine and handed it to him. This is a bottle of medicine that I made in the past 2 days. Consider it a little gift from me. Although it can't cure your old injury completely, it can ease it. President Ku was overjoyed when he heard this. He thanked her again and again before leaving. In the room, Ling Mohan watched her walk in and asked, "When are you leaving?" "Of course, the sooner the better. I want to see Aunt Sushi now." She narrowed her eyes and said with a smile. Such a woman was indeed rare in the world. How could her grandfather miss out on such a chance? Seeing her expression, Ling Mohan smiled and said, "In this world, there is only the face restoration pill, but there is no pill or medicine that can make people look younger. Your grandfather and Sushi want to be together. Just like what President Ku said, it will be very difficult. If it was someone else, as long as he had the ability, he would choose a beautiful woman to marry. Even a yuanying old man who was hundreds of years old could take a woman in her teens to warm his bed. The difference in age was not a problem at all. However, it was very difficult for someone like her grandfather. A woman did that for him. If he was young, it would be fine. But now, he was in his twilight years. How could he accept his old face appearing in front of the person he loved every day? This world is so strange. Whether it is pills or medicine, there are endless changes. How do you know that there won't be a pill that can make people look younger in this world? She raised her eyebrows and looked at him with confidence. The art of medicine is mysterious and changeable. As long as I study it carefully, I believe that it won't be a problem to develop such a pill. Moreover, since there is no such pill in this world, then if I develop it, my name as the ghost doctor will really be famous in the world. Looking at her raised eyebrows and exuberant expression, he couldn't help but smile. Yes, others don't know. But if it's you, I believe it can be done. As soon as he finished speaking, he took a sip of his tea. Hearing this, Fengjiu glanced at him. Don't give me that. We have to sleep separately. If you dare to sneak into my room in the middle of the night, humph, I'll make you impotent any minute. Cough, cough. Before he could swallow his tea, he choked because of her words. He coughed twice and put down the teacup. His expression was slightly angry as he glanced at her. This woman, in front of 4 subordinates, she really dared to say anything. Hui Lang and Ing Yi, who were standing to the side, couldn't help but lower their heads and laugh. Ling Shuang's expression was still cold, but a smile flashed through his eyes. Only Ling Hua revealed a carefree smile, not bothering to hide the smile on his face. Fengjiu raised his eyebrows at him and chuckled. Don't think I'm joking. I'm serious. If you want to have a taste of what Hui Lang was like back then, you can give it a try. Chapter 547. Erectile dysfunction was definitely a nightmare for him. He absolutely did not want to recall the time when he was pricked by the ghost doctor and sent to the brothel by his master. If the ghost doctor had not mentioned it, he would have really forgotten about it. Ling Shuang, Ling Hua, pack up. We're getting ready to leave. She chuckled and turned to leave the room to wait for them downstairs. Yes. The two of them responded and packed up some things in the room. Ling Mohan stood up and followed them downstairs. Ing Yi followed behind him. Hui Lang went back to the room next door to pack up some of his belongings before gathering downstairs. Little Tun Yun ran downstairs while Lao Bai was let out. The group of people left as soon as they said they would. They boarded the airship and left for Sanjiang City after exiting the city gates. At the same time, in the Lin residence, Old Master Feng was still wearing his inconspicuous gray robe with a wine gourd hanging from his waist. He was walking around the Lin residence with his hands behind his back. He walked hurriedly and occasionally glanced back at the people 3 meters behind him before he quickened his pace. However, the moment he quickened his pace, the people behind him also quickened their pace. In short, they maintained a distance of 3 meters and did not get further away. When the people in the residence saw this, they only pursed their lips and smiled. Some of them bowed and then went about their own business. Such a scene appeared in the residence every day for the past few days. The one walking in front was the old Master Feng, and the one following behind was definitely their Lin Residence's Aunt Su Shi. A lot of people didn't understand why their beautiful aunt would fall for such an old man. Although it was strange, no one dared to ask. No one dared to be disrespectful to the old Master Feng, because not only had Aunt Su Shi warned them, even the family head had said that he was his sworn brother. Whoever dared to be disrespectful would be expelled from the residence. When they arrived at a pavilion, the helpless old Master Feng stopped and looked back. He said, "Su Shi, don't follow me anymore. Let me go. You kidnapped me and brought me here. It's fine if I can't see my son, but I can't even see my precious granddaughter. What's the meaning of this? Big Brother Sanyuan, if you agree to my request, I won't keep you here. As long as you agree, let alone returning to the Phoenix Dynasty, I'll even go deep into the mountains with you," she said softly as she looked at him with a burning gaze. "Su Shi, I say, why are you so stubborn? We're really not suitable." Grandpa Feng was really helpless. No matter what he said, she wouldn't listen. What he didn't expect was that everyone in the Lin Manor, regardless of whether it was the elders or the younger generation, would let her do whatever she wanted. They all tacitly agreed. What else could he do? Su Shi faintly looked at him, her eyes filled with unconcealable pain. In the past it wasn't possible, and it really wasn't suitable because you had a wife. But now, your wife has passed away for many years, your son has become the ruler of a country, and your granddaughter is already so old. What is there that isn't suitable? I've waited for you for so many years. Do you want me to wait forever? But the problem isn't that. When he met her gaze, he became listless. Even his voice became softer. She moved and appeared in front of him. Her young and plump body blocked his way. "Step by step," she said. "Isn't it just that I'm too young and beautiful? Others can't even hope for their own woman to be so young and beautiful. You're using this as an excuse to push me away." Chapter 548. Su Shi looked at him with her beautiful eyes and hurriedly bent down to help him up. "Look at you, am I that scary?" Don't, I can do it myself." Old Master Feng waved his hands and moved back in fear. He didn't even dare to look at her. Seeing this, Su Shi bit her lips. She was a little angry and sad. She looked at him with red eyes, covered her face with her sleeves, and quickly ran away. Sigh. Old Master Feng sighed helplessly. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart. He didn't get up and just sat on the ground with his legs crossed. He took the wine gourd from his waist and drank a mouthful of wine. After a long time, he stood up, patted his dusty robes, and walked out with his hands behind his back. In the shadows, 2 shadow guards followed him. It wasn't that they wanted to follow, but that the head of the family ordered them not to let him escape. Walking out of the Lin family's gate, old Master Feng took a deep breath, tidied his robes, and walked out onto the street. He was just an old man in a gray robe. The only thing special about him was the wine gourd at his waist. Walking on the street like this, he naturally wouldn't attract the attention of others. He walked around outside and looked at the bustling street with people coming and going. He didn't go to places like restaurants and inns. Instead, he found a random corner and sat cross-legged on the street, drinking wine. No one knew what he was thinking. Perhaps it was because he looked no different from an old beggar, but someone actually threw a silver coin at him. The sound of the coin breaking old Master Feng's train of thought. He came back to his senses and picked up the silver coin. He was slightly startled and had a strange expression. The 2 shadow guards in the shadows couldn't help but twitch their mouths. This was because old Master Feng had been in their Lin family for some time. The head of the family had ordered the shadow guards to inquire about the Phoenix Dynasty. Thus, they knew that this old man was the father of the Phoenix dynasty's emperor. But he didn't expect that he didn't put on any airs at all. After walking around the street a few times, he actually found a corner to sit down cross-legged and drink. Someone actually threw a silver coin to him. Did they think he was a beggar? Seeing that the sky was darkening, he had no intention of going back. The two secret guards whispered to each other, and one of them went into the mansion. Su Shi, who was wearing a simple and elegant dress, followed the shadow guard. From afar, she could see the figure sitting on the corner in a daze. She didn't know what he was thinking about, but his expression was lifeless. His brows were slightly furrowed, and there was a trace of worry on his face. Seeing him like this, she suddenly felt her heart ache and her heart ache. She couldn't help but ask herself softly, should she not force him like this? She was about to walk over, but when she saw him sitting there in a daze, she stopped. She stood quietly at the corner of the street, looking at him quietly and accompanying him. The two shadow guards in the shadows saw this and couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. They looked at the old man sitting on the corner of the street, then looked at Aunt Su Shi standing on the other side of the street. The two of them were also speechless. Only when the sky was completely dark did old Master Feng slowly get up. With his hands behind his back, he walked towards the Lin family. On the other side of the street, Su Shi didn't appear. She only watched from afar and quietly followed. Only when he entered the Lin family's gate and walked towards the courtyard did she order the servants in the mansion to prepare some food for him. Chapter 549. N. Su Shi responded and smiled at him. Then, she walked inside. Seeing her walk inside, he pondered for a moment. He called out to the shadow guard and found out that she went out to find old Master Feng. The two of them came back one after the other. Tell the kitchen to cook 2 more dishes to go with wine. Also, bring out my precious bottle of spirit wine. I want to drink a few cups with Uncle Feng. He smiled and signaled for the guard to go to his courtyard to get the wine. Not long after, the guard came back with the wine. He walked towards old Master Feng's courtyard with the wine in his hand. At this time, old Master Feng was sitting in the courtyard and drinking wine. He looked at the moon above his head and thought, I was kidnapped. How worried must Feng girl be? Although the matters there had been taken care of, his sworn brother's people shouldn't have told Feng Shao and Feng girl that he was here. Ai. Uncle Feng, why are you sighing? A middle-aged man walked in and smiled at old Master Feng sitting in the courtyard. Oh, it's Chengji. Why are you here? Old Master Feng saw that it was his sworn brother's eldest son and said, Sit. I heard from the gatekeeper that you just came back, so I wanted to come and drink a few cups with you. Look, I know you like wine, so I even brought my precious spirit wine. He laughed and sat down at the table with the wine jug. Hearing that there was good wine, old Master Feng became more spirited. You have it in your collection? Last time, your father also brought me a jug. TSK, that wine was so fragrant that I still drool when I think about it. There really is a lot of good wine here. Mine is not worse than my father's. If you don't believe me, try it. He took a cup and poured half a cup. Seeing that it was only half a cup, old Master Feng narrowed his eyes. You brat, you're even stingier than your father. How can you taste such a small cup? Hearing this, Lin Qingji couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. Haha, Uncle Feng, you haven't eaten yet, right? It's not good to drink wine on an empty stomach. Try a small sip first. I had people prepare a few dishes to go with the wine. They'll be here soon. As he spoke, he saw a few maids come in with things. It wasn't the dishes he ordered, but the dinner that Su Shi had the kitchen prepare. Auntie asked the kitchen to prepare this. A maid said with a smile on her face as she retreated. In the Lin manor, everyone called Su Shi Aunt. Haha, Uncle Feng, you should eat first. Don't eat too much or you won't be able to drink much later. Just you wait, tonight, this old man will drink with you until we're drunk. Old Master Feng laughed loudly. He ate a bit first. Seeing that the dishes had been delivered, he had people take the dishes away and began to drink with Lin Qingji. The old man had left home for a while and was worried about something. In addition, he was entangled with Su Shi in the Lin manor. This kind of messy relationship made him very vexed. Tonight, when they drank, they let go of the wine. From the first small cup to the end, they drank until late at night. Chapter 550. When Su Shi, who was hiding in the shadows, heard this, her heart couldn't help but jump. She nervously looked at the drunk man with a red face. What? Old Master Feng was drunk and didn't hear what he said. Seeing this, a smile flashed across his eyes and he continued to ask, Uncle Feng, do you have my aunt in your heart? Your aunt? Old Master Feng hiccuped. His eyes were half closed and he supported his head with one hand. He swayed as if he was going to fall at any moment. My aunt, Su Shi. Su Shi is a silly girl. Why do you think she fell in love with an old man like me? I'm just an old man. I don't deserve her. He waved his hand as he spoke. But you should know that my aunt doesn't care. But I care. He seemed to suddenly become angry. He heavily slammed the wine bowl in his hand on the table, causing half of the wine to spill out. He then said, So what if I have her in my heart? If I love her, I should give her the best. I can't give her that, so I pushed her away again and again. But that silly girl threw herself at me again and again. She was hurt by me again and again. Tell me, is she stupid? Is she stupid? I want to escape. This old man wanted to escape this afternoon. He suddenly spoke in a heavy tone and slammed the wine bowl on the table again. The next moment, he frowned and said with a troubled expression, But I thought, if I escape, she will really wait for me. Then I will have committed a great sin. I thought about it all afternoon and couldn't think of a way. Tell me, what should I do? He picked up the wine bowl and was about to drink when he realized that the wine in the bowl had spilled. He loudly shouted, Pour the wine. Lin Qingji was startled by him and looked at him strangely. He quickly poured more wine for him. Then just marry her. This isn't an unsolvable problem. My aunt likes you and won't care if you're older than her. He also drank some wine and slowly calmed down. No. My old scalp is wrinkling. How can I harm Su Shi? No. Pooh. Cough. Hearing his words, Lin Qingji choked on his wine and stared blankly. He felt that Uncle Feng's way of thinking and speaking were simply too unpredictable. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could she say something like that? Come, Uncle Feng, drink some more. He couldn't help but smile as he poured more wine for him. However, after drinking 2 more bowls of wine, Master Feng finally couldn't take it anymore and collapsed. His entire body lay on the table as he muttered, No, Uncle Feng? Uncle Feng? Lin Qingji called out to him twice. Seeing that he didn't respond, he looked into the darkness and said with a smile, Auntie, Uncle Feng is drunk. Su Shi walked out from the shadows and lightly walked to the table. She looked at the drunk old Master Feng and asked, Why did you think of drinking with him? Auntie, I've known Uncle Feng since he came here a few decades ago. Recently, I haven't had time to catch up with him. Tonight, I just happened to have time, so I brought some wine to drink and chat with Uncle Feng. Chapter 551. Hearing this, Su Shi glanced at him and then at the unconscious old Master Feng. Her heart skipped a beat. Aunt, it's late. I'll go back first. Lin Qingji bowed and left with a smile. Su Shi looked at the person lying on the table and paused for a moment. She went forward and called out, Brother San Yuan? Brother San Yuan? And sushi? Old Master Feng called out unconsciously. Although his eyes were half open, he was so drunk that he couldn't tell what was going on. Sushi revealed a gentle smile. It's me. You're drunk. Let me help you in. As she spoke, she helped him up and walked towards the room. The shadow guards in the dark watched the two enter the room and were stunned. Their Aunt Sushi wouldn't really want to do that, right? Sure enough, this matter really needed their master's help. Seeing their master bring a jar of wine over, this matter was directly settled. In the room, Sushi first helped him wash up and change into clean clothes. She helped him lie down on the bed and looked at the person lying on the bed. Her eyes were filled with hesitation. She didn't dislike him for being old. She was just afraid that if she really did that, would he blame her when he woke up tomorrow? She struggled in her heart and thought of what he said to Qingji tonight. Just as Qingji said, he didn't dare to take that step. Since that was the case, why not let her take this step? In any case, in this life, she had already decided on him. After making up her mind, she felt nervous, shy, and uneasy. She stood by the bed for a while and remembered that there were still shadow guards in the courtyard. Thus, she walked out and glanced at the shadows. All of you, leave and guard outside the courtyard. Don't let anyone disturb us. Yes. The shadow guards' eyes lit up. They were very happy with this answer. With a leap, they went to guard outside the courtyard. Sushi glanced outside and closed the door again. She turned around and walked back to the bed. She looked at the person on the bed and lowered her head shyly. She raised her hand and slowly unbuttoned her clothes. In another courtyard, Lin Qingji, who reeked of alcohol, returned to his courtyard with a smile on his face. Before he entered his room, he saw his wife open the door and welcome him. "Husband, I heard that you went to drink with Uncle Feng?" The first madam came to his side and smelled the smell of alcohol on his body. Seeing his smiling face, she couldn't help but be slightly surprised and asked with a smile, "Husband, you seem to be very happy? Did you have a good chat with Uncle Feng?" "Haha, Uncle Feng still likes to drink as much as before." He shook his head and smiled. He wrapped his arm around her waist and led her into the room. "I was really happy tonight. Well, compared to tonight, I'm more curious about what will happen tomorrow morning." Speaking of this, he laughed again, which surprised his wife. While asking someone to bring in water for him to wash up, she asked, "What's the matter tomorrow morning? Looking at you, could it be that something good has happened?" After going out for a while, he became so secretive. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.